Well, dear viewers, I think it's that time of the update again, aka the time of great suffering. And I say that because I suspect there is a mission in the weekly Havocs for this week, or maybe in the heroic efforts, that calls for getting torpedo hits. Now, I haven't actually looked because I'll be totally honest with you, I never look at the weekly Havoc missions or the heroic effort missions. I simply play this game so much that the missions get done themselves, as long as I play a variety of different ship types, and essentially I never look at them. But I suspect there is a mission ongoing right now that calls for torpedo hits, because the past 2 nights in a row when I've played this game at high tiers, I've gotten matches exactly like this, where there are a high number of destroyers, and this match is the most extreme. As you can see, there are 10 destroyers spread across either team evenly with 5 on each side, and the rest of the ships are battleships and the one odd cruiser who happens to be on our team. I don't know about you guys, but these kind of games are unpleasant. This kind of destroyer overload means a torpedo safari is incoming, and I imagine a lot of people who like to play battleships are not thrilled when they find themselves unceremoniously thrust into matches like this, because of course destroyers are a major threat with their stealthiness and their torpedoes. But I thought, after playing this game, that it would be good to show on YouTube, because I've got some advice on how to deal with destroyers in a battleship, the perennial age-old question. And right now, we are beginning to implement what I'm going to elucidate to you in terms of this advice. You can see we're turning out. We're giving broadside to that République out there, which isn't ideal, but why are we turning out? Well, anytime you're in a battleship and you're pushing in toward where the enemy is located, and you know the enemy has 5 destroyers out there, well, you don't want to push in to where the destroyers are. It was always my intention to turn when I got closer to this cap, and spotting the Paolo Emilio made my decision even more urgent. So we've conducted a turn to get away from these torpedoes. Paolo's torpedoes are coming at us, though, so we're going to slow down now, because you can see those torpedoes out there to the right. They might hit us if we continue to go at full speed, so we kick back on the throttle, continue our turn, and we're able to dodge all the torpedoes. Well, not all. I think we took 1, but there's some more. The idea is, well, I suppose the most major piece of advice I can give you as far as countering destroyers in your battleships or avoiding taking their torpedoes is don't push into them. Very simple. Do not push in to a section of the map where you are spotted and you know that there are enemy destroyers around, because pushing into the torpedoes is going to make it easier for the enemy team to hit you with said torpedoes. And obviously there is still a destroyer in that alpha cap. There he is. He's just been spotted. We are not going to push into that alpha cap because it is occupied by that destroyer. Pushing straight into that destroyer would be suicidal, as the battleship who is contesting A right now is probably soon going to find out. In fact, it looks like he's being cross-torped from the port side of his ship by another unseen destroyer. Are they going to hit him? Oh no, they missed. So that, I think, there is basically just luck. But that Georgia, he's not going to have a good time. He's got a République coming for him. He's got more torpedoes coming for him. He's pushing into the cap. We do not need to push into a cap in a battleship 5 minutes into the game. I don't care if that cap is occupied by a destroyer. You are not going to help your team by pushing your battleship into a cap to contest it versus a destroyer and then die, because that's what's going to happen. You are going to die. So instead of pushing into the alpha cap with our Georgia teammate, we are kiting away from the cap and trying to get fire on this République. We hit him once with the HE, started a fire, but we elected to switch to the armor piercing, and we get a nice decent chunk out of his broadside. République seems to be concerned only with us. I think that island in the cap is preventing him from shooting at the Georgia, But to be fair, the Georgia is going to be able to provide me some valuable assistance in the form of distracting this Republique. By some miracle, he's managed to avoid all of the torpedoes sent his way by the 2 destroyers that are obviously out there, and he's sailing further into the cap, despite the fact that the destroyer's probably still in the cap with him. Or maybe not. Could just be the Republique. But the Georgia is doing something extremely valuable right now, actually, so I take back any criticism I might have leveled at him earlier on. He's flanking this Republique and trying to, well, maybe he's not. Actually, he's going right in front of the Republique, and, well, he's providing a distraction, so it's all good. Shooting at the Republique, stop shooting at me. I'm going to be able to shoot at that Republique now, and it looks like the Georgia is simply going for the ram, so that's fine. But we've still got a destroyer, as far as we know, in the area of the Alpha Cap, and we need to be careful. 3 destroyers have perished on the enemy team, 3 destroyers have perished on our team. It's 5 versus 4, but the battle could go a very different way indeed. We're unspotted right now, though, and that's key. Now, a little bit on the ship we're actually playing. It's the Tier 8 American battleship USS Maine, which is essentially a down-tiered Montana, and I don't have too much to say about it beyond that, aside from the fact that the guns are pretty accurate, and the ship is incredibly long, and thus has a very wide turning circle. So, let's put it this way, it is not the best torpedo-dodging battleship known to man. In fact, it's probably one of the worst. But you don't need a very maneuverable battleship to avoid getting damaged by torpedoes, even in games like this. Now, we haven't done a whole lot in this game, to be fair. We've merely kited away from the Alpha Cap and dealt some damage to that Republique. But we're still alive, and we're still fairly healthy, with 1 heal left, which I think we're going to pop sometime soon to regain our full HP. The fact that we're alive is going to allow us to continue to influence this game, and that's something you need to keep in mind no matter what ship class you're in. There's no sense in dying meaninglessly, because dying is going to kick you out of the game, and you're not going to be able to help your team contribute to the win or pull back a loss or anything like that. You should be preserving your life till the end. That should be one of your goals. Now, of course, if you reach the end and there are 5 enemy ships facing you and you're the last ship left alive, don't hold the game hostage by trying to stay alive. Go out there with guns blazing and get sunk, so that the game ends and everybody can move on to the next. But as a general rule of thumb, keep yourself alive. And how are we doing that? Well, we're paying attention to the map as we push in toward this Frederick de Grossa. We're trying to get some shots on him, and we note that we are spotted. If you take a look at the minimap, when my detection is no longer under the influence of the firing penalty, it sits at approximately 13 kilometers, and it's represented by a blue ring on the minimap around my ship. When that ring turns orange and we get spotted by the sea, and there's no visible enemy ship in our line of sight, then that means we're being spotted by a destroyer. So we knew we were being spotted by a destroyer while we were shooting at this GK. And what have we done? We've made a turn to starboard. We've changed our course. We are now going to sail starboard for a little while, because this destroyer, who is spotting us, is undoubtedly trying to launch torpedoes at us. There's no question about it in my mind whatsoever. Anytime you're in a situation like this and you're spotted by an enemy destroyer in your battleship, you can assume that they are trying to launch torpedoes at you. And with that assumption, what you should do is vary your course and speed. And you see right there, we were easily able to dodge those torpedoes before they ever even came near us, simply by changing direction. A good rule of thumb is that every time you shoot your guns and they reload, that is when you should turn. About 30 seconds between course changes, maybe a little more, maybe 45 seconds or so. That is the sweet spot. That is the spot where you are going to have the most success in dodging torpedoes. And if you have a destroyer frustrated trying to suicide rush you, you wait until they turn and give you broadside, and then you pump your shells into them. Maybe it's not enough to kill them, but hopefully your secondaries step in and do the trick. And I think that's what happened there. Obviously, it was the Sumner that was trying to torpedo us, but because we changed our course so much, well, he got frustrated, and he decided to rush us, which was a terrible idea for him. You generally never, ever, ever want to YOLO battleships in your destroyer unless you have no other choice. If it's the last thing you're going to do to get a last bit of damage before a game ends, then fine. But full health destroyer, YOLOing a battleship, if the battleship player is decent, that should be a death sentence. In any case, we managed to not get ourselves sunk. I think we were the final battleship left alive on our team before that Sumner took us out. And he did take us out, but he traded his ship for it, which is a terrible trade. You never, ever, ever want to trade your destroyer for a battleship, because in terms of battle impact, destroyers have a lot more influence over the course of a game than a battleship does. But the general rules of thumb: change your course, change your speed. If you're spotted by a destroyer and you are under an active torpedo threat, then change your course after every reload. Maintain your angle to the enemies if possible, but change your course and your speed. You will be astounded at how difficult it becomes for enemy destroyers to hit you when you make frequent and unpredictable course changes. That is the key to playing battleships and destroyer games like this, and another key is not pushing in early in the game and getting torpedoed. It is okay to kite in a battleship. It is okay to preserve your hit points. In fact, it is desirable for you to do that in games like this. And I think the fact that we stayed alive as long as we did and contributed to the game in the way that we did, especially by taking out that full health Sumner near the end, is going to be a vital component of why we win this game. There is, of course, only one enemy destroyer left versus my 3 teammates, so he's essentially got no chance, and basically they're just chasing him, and that destroyer is sort of holding the game hostage by refusing to show himself. He's got no hope of winning, really. He doesn't have enough time. He might as well just get spotted by my teammates, shoot his guns, and go down with honor in a blaze of glory. But he's not going to do that, of course. He's going to wait until the time runs out, and we're either going to win on points or the timer is going to expire. I can't remember which one exactly happens which way. But the point here is that if you're playing a battleship, you need to not push in toward the destroyer threat. In fact, you probably need to sail away from it. Sailing away from the destroyer threat makes it harder for them to hit you with their torpedoes, and you need to vary your course and speed. And anytime a destroyer is spotted, you need to shoot at it with your battleship. Destroyers are by far and away the biggest threat that you're going to face, so if you spot one, you need to deal damage to it instantly and not let it go away unscathed. Every point of damage that you deal to a destroyer is a point that it cannot get back unless it's a special Russian or pan-European destroyer and has a heal, but even then, they still have a very limited hit points pool. So hopefully this little demonstration here and these tips will help you navigate the seas if they're full of destroyers like they have been over the past couple of days, and maybe make it a little bit easier for you to play your battleships. The good news, too, is that while you might not get a lot of damage in these kind of games, shooting and demolishing destroyers is extremely lucrative in terms of XP. You can see we broke 2k base XP here. We are topped on the leaderboard by the Z46, which is perfectly fine. The destroyer should take the leaderboard top place in a game like this, but very successful game in our main. I think we did some valuable things for our team, And hopefully this helps you if you're struggling against destroyers in your battleship. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.